we have this property for sale. And we've had a number of offers on the property, and it's usually a year term. And our lawyer kept telling us, so we've had this a number of times, and then they fall through. And our lawyer has kept telling us, he would say, there's no way that this gets done this fast. But our realtor kept saying, oh yeah, like the realtor kept acting like, yeah, this is normal. This is the norm. No problem. This can be done. And so anyway, the last time, again, like I wrote up the contracts, and I had two options. One was for a year and one was for 2 years. And because the 1 year is obviously a little bit cheaper, because that's what you usually do with time, right? And so they took the cheaper one, and then the guy kept coming back and trying to get an extension. Like, dude, you had a 2-year option and you didn't negotiate for that. So you took the 1 year option, and I wouldn't have given him any time, but my family members wanted to. And so ultimately he came back a number of times for an extension, and I was able to convince them to just let it go, because basically the deal is no longer consistent with the timeline. And so we killed the deal, because you can do that, right? Like, we had a contract, but he was changing the terms of the contract. We would have to approve that. And if he wasn't happy with the existing terms, and he could end it, but I also had the option, like, if we're going to change the terms, we can change the terms the way that I want them to change. And so that's what makes it a changeable situation. And so I was unwilling to grant him the extra time. He was unwilling to give more money. He was also unwilling to stick to the existing timeline. And so we just parted ways. And that's really when I understood what the lawyer was saying. Like initially when the lawyer had said, there's no way, I was like, well, I gave the guy 2 options. This is his problem. But what the lawyer was saying indirectly is, this is the game to keep the money low. They know, they're developers. They do this all the time. They even do it in the area where the property is. They know what they're doing. They know they're going to ask you for the additional time, and they don't want to pay for it. And this is the way to just squeeze you for more money. He just didn't put it that way. But now I understand.
Well, I have some questions. The reason that they delay is because it's to their advantage, right? But what are those advantages?
They're just trying to drag it out until they can find a buyer to buy it from them for more money. And the longer it takes for this process to happen, presumably appreciation has happened. And so they're taking all the value.
So information's asymmetry, right? So you didn't know, you didn't have that information. Now you know, but they counted on you not knowing that information. And I feel like a lot of negotiators, this is one of the tactics. They know that if you don't ask the right questions, if they don't know, they don't know. And that's how you can gain advantage in a negotiation, because the other side they didn't know, they didn't have that information.
Yeah, it's a game, and I definitely did not know how. I know the value. I had a pretty good idea the value of the property. We can argue about that,
right? But you don't know about the developer side of things. You can be a great negotiator. You can be an expert in that area, but there still could be information that you don't know that the other side can use as advantage.
So normally you overcome some of this asymmetry by getting an agent.
Right.
Because that's like closing the gap on the information asymmetry, right? So that is one of the lessons I will say that's super interesting to me, maybe counterintuitive, is, this property has been listed for a while. Obviously, we've had 6 deals on it. I think it's 6. And we will get these people who, A, think we're dumb, Like it's the information asymmetry, and they think that we don't know what we're doing, and they try this game. And then we'll get these people who think that we're desperate because it's been listed for so long. Well, it's been listed so long because we're not desperate. Like, we'd like to sell, but we don't have to sell. So it's interesting because I've seen this a lot with people, like even like buying homes, like, oh, well, this one's been listed a long time. No, that person is trying to get top dollar. That's why it's listed for a long time. And that is an indication that they are not desperate.
If someone makes that assumption, they're also going to try to offer justifications that supports that assumption. So they're going to, and it's all imaginary, right? They're thinking like, oh, they must be desperate. And and they're being unrealistic in their asking price. So I can go in and make this offer and maybe they'll accept it. So they didn't do their homework, right? They're not understanding the proper value.
But I mean, the reason why you're negotiating is because there's a level of subjectivity in terms of how things are valued. And some of that subjectivity is based on like the dimensions of value. Like, for example, this property is a great location.
Mm-hmm.
So I would put a high value, a high dollar amount on that. But somebody else might argue about that. Maybe the person coming in isn't going to put as high of a value on those dimensions as we would. And that's part of the negotiation. That's part of like the discrepancy in the value.
Yeah.
Or there are dimensions that they are sort of subtracting from the overall value, right?
Yeah, but it's hard to take out the human emotions, right? And I was a lot of times in negotiation, I feel that there's we can't get away from the referencing point, our emotions, how we feel, and our perceptions, and I sometimes it's hard for me to kind of keep in check. I come in prepared, but it is still hard to get away from the feelings and psychologically the reference points and balancing that with knowledge and facts.
I agree. It's very challenging. So the external objective criteria, that's what I'm calling. I'm calling it objective criteria. I'm pretty sure that's Sherry's term. That's very helpful because for things that we don't do very often, it gives us a way to value it. But they're only as good as the objective criteria or criterion that we're actually able to find. And so if you are, let's just go back to women for a second. So if you are a female and you are negotiating a salary, a job position salary, and you are turning to other women in your network doing the same job, and we know that women historically, it's gotten better, but historically have not negotiated, then your external objective criteria is already deflated, right? Like it's already lower. And so you do have to consider how legitimate, and like I'm not saying that other women's salaries isn't legitimate, but like if they're not negotiating, like you should double check that, right? Did you negotiate?
Right.
And hopefully have some males in your information sources as well.
Yeah. Even though I'm putting the things I teach into practice, I'm still surprised every time. Negotiate in the beginning, you said we negotiate every day, really. We negotiate with our spouses, with our family members, and negotiating with children. One of my sister-in-law said, my daughter is the best negotiator. I'll tell her to that she's only allowed to pick one thing and it cannot exceed $25. and she finds something that costs 27 and she just refused to leave the store until, and she can't drag her. So, there's always, there's surprises, things that you're not prepared for, the tactics they're going to use or information that you don't know. But it's just an ongoing, the confidence, practice, and we get the confidence and we increase our accuracy from feedback, from learning our lessons, and then prepare for surprises.
I think people don't like negotiation. Like they don't like going into a negotiation when it's called a negotiation, but it's actually fun.
Yeah, it is. And I get it's so much satisfaction from getting a bigger piece of the pie or just getting what I wanted.
Or just like, so, I grew up, my first business was running a good chunk of the third largest motorcycle rally in the nation. And it wasn't always about getting top dollar. Like if I was getting paid well and the vendors were paying a rate that they could then turn around and make a good living, so that way they'd be back year after year. Like it's win-win. Like sometimes it's not always getting a bigger piece of pie. Sometimes it's everybody's happy. Like it's nice to be in a place where everybody's happy, everybody's making money, or pretty much everybody's coming back. Like there are other reasons.
Yeah. When my kids fight, my biggest satisfaction is to help them find a win-win. So it's conflict resolution, but you use negotiation to get there. But you walk away feeling that, okay, I didn't compromise, and we both walked away with exactly what we wanted. And it's growth. And that's, it's a good skill to have, good thing to learn.
Yeah, I think you are at a detriment if you don't develop negotiation skills.
The biggest fear, I think, is that they, like you said earlier, they don't, when it's presented as a negotiation, they immediately think of conflict and they want to do anything to avoid it. But it shouldn't be.